What celebrity suffered the worst fall from grace? Allison Mack, Bill Cosby, and Jarrett Fogle are all in jail. I think fame to jail is a pretty big fall from grace, with Cosby the clear winner for falling furthest. It's one thing to lose your game. It's another thing entirely to lose your freedom. I was disgusted to read about Allison Mack. I grew up with Smallville in my teens, so my crush was always her/Chloe. 8 years later, it would be revealed Claire's sister Sarah had had a 2009 sexual relationship with Lama Tenzin Dondan, the Dalai Lama's gatekeeper who arranged the appearance, who as a monk had taken a vow of celibacy. What the F? How does your cult sleep its way to the Dalai Lama of all people? Jeffrey Jones, best known for Mr. Rooney in Ferris Bueller and Mr. Deeds in Beetlejuice. He has had numerous problems with profession of child pornography, solicitation of child pornography, problems with registering as a sex offender and updating his sex offender registration. And finally problems with his employers where people were invited to be on set but parents and visitors were up in arms when they were not formally notified he was a sex offender and on set. Not a big star by any means, but Mark Salling. Charged due to child pornography and then he committed suicide before he could be sentenced. There's a line in Glee where his character says in response to "Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Probably dead, or in jail, or both." Didn't age well. Danny Masterson. That 70s show was a constant joy since childhood, but after hearing Leah Remini interview a few of his victims, can't even stomach the thought of watching it. Jimmy Savile. There's really no contest. The guy raped hundreds of children and even had sex with corpses. Bill Cosby. It's kind of crazy that it took so long, too. Bobcat Goldthwait had been making Cosby rape remarks for years. Original poster replies. Cosby also did a stand-up bit about putting Spanish fly in a girl's drink. And a Cosby Show episode where he spikes food to make everyone horny. It's strange even without the new context. Yep. Openly bragged about roofing women via jokes and everyone was shocked that he actually did it. O.J. Simpson. All-time football great, cultivated a public persona as lovable nice guy in TV and movies after his playing career, and then the real O.J. was revealed to the public. O.J. and Cosby are the gold medal finalists for this question. And Armstrong loses another medal. The real O.J. was revealed to the public when his domestic violence was public years before he murdered 2 people. The public shrugged. Murdering his ex-wife and her friend goes beyond revealing the real O.J. That's something else entirely. Aaron Carter belongs on this list. The purest teeny-bopper heartthrob back in the day. Now, Nick Carter has to get a restraining order against him for threatening to hurt his kids. He's clearly dealing with meth addiction and the lowest of his lows. He did an egg live where him and a friend are driving around, hyping up Aaron. They go through a drive-thru and Aaron gives the girl a concert tee with his face on it. She had no idea who he was. This is the first time I've heard or thought about Aaron Carter since the mid-2000s or so. I figured like a lot of pop stars, he had a fairly successful run, then just quietly bowed out with his money and lived a normal life. Wow, had no idea this is what became of him. I had to Google him. He's a rapper now with face tats. Looks like a MGK wannabe. Oscar Pastori is killing his girlfriend. I went to high school with him. He was a final year prefect when I was in 3rd year. I watched him throttle and hang a friend of mine over a 2nd-story balcony for asking if he could leave detention 5 minutes early to catch the last bus. Oscar Pistorius was a violent maniac long before he shot his girlfriend. Jarrett Fogle. Fame out of nowhere to convicted pedophile. Edit, a word. As someone who lives in his old hometown, it apparently wasn't a huge surprise. He lost in the wait because he was stalking a high school girl who worked at that Subway. He also rented a second apartment to store all the porn he was selling to local college students. I was actually told this way back in the day by a random guy I was playing blackjack with in Vegas. He said the Subway guys would rue the day they hired that fat Jarrett guy when it came out what he was doing for money when he lost all that weight. As I recall it, the guy said Jarrett was running a porn site with a bunch of pirated content, and won't that look great on a sandwich ad? Turns out the guy was right, but off by a long shot about how bad it'd be. Started and ended with him trying to get into a smaller pair of pants. Any of the child celebrities that were never given a chance at a normal life and ended up getting chewed up and spit out by the industry. Lindsay Lohan and Britney Spears come to mind, but there are many. Mara Wilson managed to escape when she realized acting wasn't for her. She's one of the lucky ones. Fairly sure Hilary Duff stayed on the straight and narrow too. Seems to be the exception rather than the rule for child actors. She had a really bad eating disorder for a while. She was really sick when filming Cheaper by the Dozen too. In the sci-fi/fantasy realm, Marion Zimmer Bradley experienced a pretty big posthumous fall from grace. It turned out she'd sexually abused her daughter from age 3 to 13 and ignored or actively supported her husband in molesting numerous boys. Not a classic celebrity, but Larry Nassar is a pretty astounding one. The most respected and trusted doctor in the elite gymnastics world. Had actually been grooming, abusing and assaulting hundreds of gymnasts, and especially using it in the top end of the elite scene. Even at the Olympics themselves. And USA Gymnastics for doing nothing about it after years or reports. The abusive training style that made it so easy to groom them is he could just allow them to eat a small snack, and that was enough to be the kindest man and savior in their world because the coaching was so horrendous. And somehow the people who facilitated this are still in control. So many vulnerable young girls were subjected to his miracle treatment. Apparently working for backs, hips, legs, groins. Any injury you can think of. Drugged to help them sleep before international competitions and waking up in his hotel room. He's a horrendous human. All these young girls with a dream. It's about the most vulnerable setting you can imagine, but a continuous flow of children. He makes me nauseous to think about. Britney Spears. Poor Britney. I know it's said often, but when I was a kid, I thought her head shaving and all that was really crazy. Now that I'm 27, I 100% am surprised she made it that long without snapping, and that she hasn't snapped again. Paul Reubens, Pee Wee Herman. As far as I'm concerned, people like Bill Cosby more than earned their fall. Paul Reubens had an undeserved fall. I always thought it was odd he was arrested for jerking off in a porno theater. I mean, isn't that why those places exist? If it was just some random movie theater, sure, but it's like being arrested for gambling in a casino. I'm not saying you should have your dick out in public. But for F's sake, it was in a porno theater, not a McDonald's land jungle gym. There's a man part the size of your forearm on screen, and we're seriously going to ruin Reubens' life for pulling his pee-wee? Silent film star Fatty Arbuckle was accused of raping and accidentally killing actress Virginia Ripay. Allegedly, in his attempt to rape her, he squashed her to death with his great girth. He was tried 3 times and was eventually acquitted. Ripay most likely died from appendicitis. His career limped along until he died of a heart attack in 1933. I lived for a short time in Fatty's former home in Santa Monica. It was a stop for the morbid tourist bus in LA. I'd be on my porch drinking coffee in the morning, and an open-sided van with a bunch of gawking Midwesterners would pull up and block traffic while a recent Midwestern transplant barked semi-facts at them over a loudspeaker before moving on. They'd take disposable camera pics of me in my pajamas. It was a real hoot. Are these real names? WTF? This is absolutely a true story. Can't believe nobody mentioned Whitney Houston. She went from being America's sweetheart and favorite singer to literal crackhead, topping it all off with a very sad and untimely death. Ashley Judd got her career tanked because she pushed back Harvey Weinstein. She lost her chance with a role in Low TR because of him, and she mostly vanished from the screens after he tagged her as a nightmare to work with. Courtney Love also never acted again after she publicly warned people about Weinstein, and people were just starting to realize that she was a surprisingly good actress. There are probably numerous women, and men, who had their careers ruined by Weinstein. Mira Sorvino for one, I think. An Oscar winner that everybody was talking about, until they just weren't. Original poster replies. 9 times out of 10, if an actress is difficult to work with, it's code for wouldn't sleep with the producer. Megan Fox with Michael Bay. How everyone is ignoring how he made her dance in a bikini under a waterfall at 15. Gary Glitter. Chris Benoit. Great WWE wrestler. Then he killed his wife and son. Autopsy report showed his brain was like that of a 70-year-old Alzheimer's patient. Then WWE went and deleted everything that had to do with him. They didn't want him associated with them after that. He did all that wrestling, got so damaged he killed his family, and WWE just wiped him out. Lost Prophets guy. Ian Watkins, not to be confused with the other musician Ian H. Watkins, who isn't a kiddie fiddler but was part of Steps or S Club 7 or something like that. Guy was really doing well for himself in the music world, until he was jailed for 28 years for some of the absolute worst acts of child sexual abuse you'll ever hear about. There were also 2 co-conspirators jailed. These were the mothers of the victims. Do not Google the court transcripts. Kevin Spacey. I agree. Of all the names to come out of the #MeToo movement, this is the one that bothers me the most. First, because I have really enjoyed his acting and have thought he was a great actor. Second, because so many of the roles he has played have revolved around the use and manipulation of power, which is what perpetrators of sexual assault do in real life, too. So the parallels are too weird for me. I can't stand looking at him anymore, much less watching him in anything. So sad. The guy only played creepy sociopaths, and he played them so well that one has to wonder whether he was acting at all. Amanda Bynes. Yeah. That poor lady. I hope she's doing better. People forget this now since he's a rare case of someone who recovered from a fall from grace, but Robert Downey Jr. in the mid to late 90s. He'd gone from a revelatory, Oscar-nominated performance in Chaplin to a national punching bag. His lethal and addiction issues made his name basically a punchline for just about everybody working in comedy at the time. Imagine the way Britney Spears was treated during her breakdown, except without anyone being A. His recovery, both his personal recovery and his public image, is really remarkable. Web link. Aaron Hernandez, if he counts as a celebrity. Star Patriots tight end, Super Bowl at 22. His last NFL game was an AFC Championship game. 6 months later, he was arrested for murder. Convicted, sentenced to life without parole, committed suicide in prison at 27. He was tried for 2 more murders and found not guilty, but there's a good chance he did it. The murder he did get convicted for made sense if he thought the guy was blabbing about the other 2 murders he was caught up and wanted to shut him up. Aaron Hernandez suffered the most severe case of chronic traumatic encephalopathy ever discovered in a person his age, damage that would have significantly affected his decision-making, judgment and cognition, researchers at Boston University revealed at a medical conference Thursday. Doctors found Hernandez had stage 3 CTE, which researchers had never seen in a brain younger than 46 years old. If you scroll down on the article, there is a picture comparing a normal brain to his brain. It's very bad. It's absolutely terrible. I love football, but they've got to figure out how to fix this mess. Web link. Not the worst, but the current and depressing one, Noel Clarke. Good-looking black British dude, talented actor, had nerd cred from a role on Doctor Who, a successful directing career, was producing TV shows. Oh, and then 20 women went on the record accusing him of sexual harassment and bullying. And then more followed. Independent accusations, a vast amount verified. And it's just, like, seriously, dude. You didn't have to do that. That was a choice. Brendan Fraser was raped, and when he came forward, his career was destroyed. So glad they got him for Doom Patrol. He really is such a great entertainer. Edit, it wasn't rape, it was sexual assault. We still love you, Brendan. Fraser alleged in 2018 that he was sexually assaulted by Philip Burke, the president of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, at a luncheon in the summer of 2003. The assault, his subsequent divorce, and the death of his mother, launched Fraser into a depression that, combined with his health issues and a backlash within the industry over speaking out against Burke, he believes caused his career to decline. Update: as of a few weeks ago, Burke was expelled from HFPA, his own fall from grace. Philip Burke, a member of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association for the past 44 years and an 8-term past president of the group behind the Golden Globe Awards, has been expelled from its membership 2 days after emailing an article to his fellow members that described Black Lives Matter as a racist hate movement and slammed its co-founder, Patrisse Cullors, for purchasing a home in Topanga Canyon. Web link. Armie Hammer: I know he wasn't that big, but as the grandson of an oil tycoon and someone whose career was starting to taking off, I think his reputation will never recover, especially with all the new and disturbing info that has been released to the public. I don't think I've seen any other celeb being accused of cannibalism before. Joe Paterno. One of the best coaches in college football history. Squeaky clean image. Helped cover up the Penn State pedophilia scandal, where one of his coaches systematically groomed kids to fiddle and rape. Awful. That was very quick. Had the team at 8-1 on Halloween, was fired by November 9th, and dead by January 22nd. Shane Dawson. At one point, he was the most popular internet celebrity out there, then the next day, you'll get demonetized just by saying his name in a YouTube video. Lance Armstrong. He had everything from gold medals and awards to multi-million-dollar endorsement deals with major companies, only to lose it all because he was using steroids the entire time. He was looked upon as a role model and had a huge fan base around the globe. Now you hear nothing about him. What's funny is that for one, he was technically never caught using, i.e. testing positive. And like all high-level competitors, they are juicy sluts. He just happened to be the big name. Don't quote me on this, but from what I remember, if you gave Lance Armstrong's medals to the highest-ranking person not juicing, you would have had to give it to the person in 19th place or something. Also, the top 20 guys tested positive for roids. So our roided-up guy beat your roided-up guy. Bill Burr. Recently it has to be Loria Baldwin, wife of Alec Baldwin. She pretended for years she was Spanish, featured regularly in Hola magazine as Best Dressed Latina, hosted a successful podcast and was a correspondent on an entertainment channel. Turned out she faked her Spanish heritage completely. She was pretty much disowned by all her sponsors and doesn't appear TV anymore. She now spends her time uploading 1,000 Instagram stories a day of her children. Edit. Thank you to whoever it was from r/Loria Baldwin for the gold, haha. Reddit link. Sinead OConnor. She had a point, but she never recovered her status again after breaking Pope's picture. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. We welcome your comments below. Press to start another of our videos.